Welcome! We have a Cybertruck to talk about today. I didn't think we would get one this quick, but luckily we were able to acquire this Cybertruck. It came in trade at a store that we do a lot of business with, Harnish. The customers didn't want it for whatever reason, so they traded in for a different vehicle. I think it was an Audi Allroad. This one is pretty low miles on it. I'll take a look at the software. Just under 1,000 miles. So this is the Foundation series. This one comes with a full self-driving capability, but right now the Cybertruck is a brand new vehicle and the full self-driving capability is not actually workable in the Cybertruck yet. It will get an update eventually, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, maybe in the next couple of months, but hopefully sooner than later, where you'll be able to use the full self-driving capability. Pretty amazing. Obviously, we deal with a lot of Teslas here at Infiniti of Tacoma. I'm a big fan of Teslas. I have a Tesla Model 3 myself. I'm a Tesla fan. My Model 3 has full self-driving. Pretty amazing. Can't wait to see how it goes in the Cybertruck. The display is definitely different versus other Teslas. Even on your app, the display is different. So this is the app for the Cybertruck. You can see the font and the graphics and stuff look different than the other Teslas that we have on our account. So yeah, pretty cool. We'll do a little walk around and we'll take it out for a spin. Obviously there's not a shortage of videos, especially on YouTube, of people testing Cybertrucks, destroying Cybertrucks, shooting at them, blowing them up with dynamite. We're not going to do any of that stuff. We'll do a little walk around, take it for a drive, practical overview. Maybe you're interested in Cybertruck information in general. Maybe you're interested in buying this particular one if it's still available while you're watching this video. So there's basically two versions of the Cybertruck available right now. There's only the Foundation series available, which bundles in unique features, bundles in the full self-driving capability automatically, which normally retails for $8,000. This is the regular Cybertruck. So this has 600 horsepower from dual motors. There's also a Cyber Beast version that's about $20,000 more, and that has 800 horsepower from tri-motors. With 600 horsepower, this thing's pretty darn quick, 0 to 64 seconds. So, you know, I think the regular Cybertruck is adequate for most people, but if you want the full-on performance, the Cyber Beast is, you know, obviously the way to go. This has a completely adjustable suspension, very off-road capable as an off-road mode. They're rolling out updates for the off-road capability. I think recently they actually allowed for you to use the locking differentials. So this is capable of doing very technical off-roading, similar to like a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. Obviously it's a little bit bigger than a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, which will limit you on like narrow trails and turning around and stuff, but very capable. And the way electric motors modulate power is very precise. A lot more easier to modulate power on an electric motor than on a gas engine. So much to talk about. Where to start? One of the most revolutionary aspects of the Cybertruck is not the one you really see, it's the steering. So this has a completely drive-by-wire steering system, and actually Tesla is not the first company to have that. Our company, Infiniti, was actually the first company to come out with a production drive-by steering rack in 2014 in the Q50. But the Infiniti actually had a mechanical steering rack as a backup, even though during normal driving conditions it is completely handled by electric motors and computers. There's no mechanical connection to the front wheels. It had a steering rack, a mechanical one, as a backup in case you had a catastrophic loss of power. Not the case for the Cybertruck. There is no mechanical backup. It has triple redundancy, so there's like, I think, a battery or multiple batteries built into the steering rack. So if you do have a catastrophic loss of power, you still can safely, steer to the side of the road. But your brain definitely has to adjust to the steering. It's completely different, the feel of it, than a regular car. Lock-to-lock steering is just like that. And it's adaptive depending on how fast you're going. So the steering ratio will change depending if you're going 80 miles an hour highway or 10, 12 miles an hour around town. But the other thing too is if we go outside is that you see that we have rear wheel steering, which is pretty amazing. The Infinitis didn't have that. So even though this is a big, full-size pickup truck, with the rear wheel steering, this thing has a very tight turning ratio. It's actually really nimble for being quite a large vehicle. So one of the things I guess you'll notice is this really long dashboard, because you have this huge sloping windshield. This kind of reminds me of like the the Chevy Lumina van, the Pontiac Transport, which had this long windshield. Kind of reminds me of that. I think this is definitely a lot cooler. Then you have a nice glass roof panel back there. The interior styling is not too revolutionary. It's not as kind of polarizing, as crazy looking as the outside. It's kind of that typical, Tesla kind of minimalist approach as far as interior styling goes. The majority of the functionality is in the screen. That's the way Tesla likes to do that, because the thing is, if you have hard buttons and knobs, they're there forever. This screen is infinitely reconfigurable. Tesla is constantly rolling out updates, changing the display, adding features. This actually has features that my Tesla doesn't have yet, which I'm hoping to get soon. Like, they recently allowed you to get Audible, Amazon Music. I like to use YouTube Music. YouTube Music is available on this one. Not available on my Tesla yet. Hopefully they'll roll that out. I have an older Tesla with an older infotainment system, so I don't get the same updates as this one. You have a dash camera. So basically, this is will record data as you drive. So it's constantly recording data. Then with Sentry mode, while the vehicle's parked, if you're worried about vandals or people getting near it, it'll record pretty much anything around the vehicle. Pretty amazing. You can see that's a clip of me driving the vehicle back to the dealership. So yeah, if you get in a car accident or you get pulled over and it's not your fault, this 360 dash camera is very, very useful. And it definitely has come in handy for a lot of people. There's a YouTube channel called Wham Bam Tesla Cam, and it shows all the crazy stuff that people have caught on camera. Pretty cool stuff. Then you have an off-road mode. The suspension actually is pretty amazing. It has an adjustable air suspension, and it has a lot of ride height in its highest setting. And then you can customize it. Then you have sport, comfort mode. This is a capable tow vehicle. I think when properly equipped, this thing can tow right around 11,000 pounds. Not too surprising considering it has 600 horsepower, and I think 800,000 pound-feet of torque. They say it's like 11,000 pound-feet of torque, but the way they measure torque, Tesla measure torque, is different than everyone else. Then you have the cool stuff. You can make the horn sound like a fart. You can talk through the horn. You can have the thing play a light show for you. You can have a colorizer. A lot of people like to wrap the Cybertruck, so you can have your Cybertruck avatar match the color of your wrap with this colorizer. You can do the silly things like the whoopee cushions and stuff like that. Multi-track recorder. Tesla's constantly rolling out new apps and features. There's also an arcade where you can play all sorts of video games. It actually has a pretty fast processor. You can even get like a Xbox L controller. You can get even like a wireless keyboard and mouse and play the games. You don't necessarily just have to use your hands. Pretty cool stuff. All right, let's do a little walk around, and then more importantly, let's take it out for a little spin. So this has the optional two-tone interior, the white and the black. Really nice, comfortable, supportive seats. The body is made out of stainless steel. Very strong. Not a joke. People can shoot at this with a small caliber weapon like a 9mm pistol, and it's not going to penetrate through the stainless steel. People hit it with a sledgehammer, all sorts of things. Barely makes a dent on the thing. Yeah, it's really tough. It's not a gimmick. It's very strong. The glass isn't bulletproof. The glass is really strong, not bulletproof. It is double pane glass, very strong, very quiet. You can see we have the foundation insignia right there. And then there are people talking about how, the Cybertrucks rust. Well, they're not rusting. It's actually picking up surface pollution from driving around. When you drive around on the roads, you actually pick up surface pollution. In the case of the Cybertrucks, what they're picking up are small particles of iron, so you get iron buildup on the vehicle, and it's actually the iron that's rusting on top of the stainless steel that's starting to rust, and you can get like an industrial cleaner and clean it off. Or sometimes people wrap these. They look really good wrapped, and they're not quite as susceptible to like the fingerprints you get with the stainless steel. You have the one giant windshield wiper blade, kind of comical, but it does work. Lots of storage here in the frunk. There's also people like to test it out. Don't do this yourself. Put their hand there. It won't chop your fingers off, but it can hurt. There are some sharp edges, so you have to be careful too. Like there's stories of people, scratching themselves, ripping their clothes on these corners. They're not too bad, but definitely not typical of a everyday vehicle. You can close the front right there with the app. And it's kind of polarizing as far as styling goes. It seems like either people love it or hate it. Not much in between. You know, when I first saw it, I'm like, well, this is definitely revolutionary and crazy, but I really need to see it in person to kind of develop an opinion. And seeing it in person, it's definitely grown on me. I mean, I wouldn't say it's beautiful. I like it's kind of Cybertruck. It's kind of like cyberpunk inspired styling. The thing that first, you know, comes to mind when I see this is one of my favorite sci-fi movies, Blade Runner. Reminds me, like it could have been right out of the Blade Runner movie with the way it looks. So if that's kind of the type of styling you dig, this one might be right. The Cybertruck might be right down your alley. But the one thing that you're gonna have to get used to, and I think maybe that kind of led to the customer on this one trading it in, is the amount of attention you're getting. In fact, I was at a different place where I was about to do a video, but one of the guys, a nice guy, came over and went to look at it and stuff and started talking to me and stuff like that. And I was just, you know, talked to him for about, 10, 15 minutes, but I'm like, I got to do this video. So I just drove away to a different spot to do a video. But, when you own one of these things, at this point, there are more and more, popping up on the road, but you're going to have a lot of people asking you questions. You're going to go to the supermarket and people are going to ask, oh, can I look inside? Can you give me a ride? They're going to want to talk to you. So if you don't like attention, you don't like people looking at you, you don't like people talking to you, this might not be the vehicle for you at this point. Maybe in a couple of years when there's more of them on the road, that will definitely change. They probably won't get quite as much attention, but right now these are still getting a lot of attention. Another cool aspect is this tonneau cover, very strong. I'm not going to do it, but you could walk on it. I've actually seen people actually walk on the glass. I'm not saying for you to do that, or I'm going to try doing that, but it's supposedly strong enough for people to walk on. Same thing with the tonneau cover. This thing is really strong. No one's going to break into there. You hit that button right there, or you can open it with the app. Opens really nice. Rivians, which we sell a lot of Rivians. We have a Rivian SUV right over there. The Rivian pickup truck has a tonneau cover. That one is very prone to issues on the Rivian. They lock up, they bind, they don't work. Where this one seems to be working absolutely flawlessly, and it works really fast too. With the tonneau cover up, that kind of blocks your rear view mirror, but it actually has a digital rear view mirror that works pretty good. The actual rear view mirror is pretty small, but that digital rear view mirror works a lot better. Then you have another button right there to open the tailgate. And it's a very large functional bed. You have this nice integrated lighting as well. Window right there, so a very large functional bed. You have some power outlets right there. 120, even a 240, 120 outlet. So you could potentially charge another EV, fast charge another EV off this outlet. Integrated tie downs. And then underneath here, you have this nice storage area. And it's completely, you have this rubber around it, so it should be completely dry. The charging cable is stored in there right now. And on top of that, with the tonneau cover closed, I don't see any water really getting in here. It should be fairly dry, especially this area right here. With the tonneau cover closed, I see it very hard for any water to migrate down here. And if it does get in here, it looks like they have some drain plugs and stuff like that. All right, pretty crazy looking. The next step is let's get behind the wheel and take this Cybertruck out for a spin and see how it drives. All right, we're taking this 2024 Cybertruck Foundation Series out for a spin. So the first thing to talk about is the steering. So you can see this thing can turn pretty much on a dime, which is not usually the case for a pickup truck like this. Pretty easy to maneuver around in a small, tight area. You have these great cameras for excellent visibility, parking and maneuvering around, and the four-wheel steering is just fantastic. But the turning ratio is really quite remarkable for a vehicle this size, and it's all because of that four-wheel steering. And it's a quick recalibration when you get behind the wheel to just how the steering reacts, but your brain quickly recalibrates and like, wow, this is actually pretty great. It's really nice and light. It's not a very big steering wheel for how big the truck is, but since it's not it's all drive-by-wire, you don't need a huge steering wheel. You don't need strength to turn it because you have electric motors and computers handling all that stuff. It gives you simulated feel back. The steering is kind of making a little bit of a noise that, obviously when you have new vehicles, there are things that they have to, you know, whenever you have a new vehicle, you know, a brand new vehicle like this, there are going to be some teething issues, and it sounds like something might be rubbing in there, but I'm sure Tesla can fix that pretty easily. And with 600 horsepower, this thing takes off very quickly, and it just tracks beautifully down the road. It is very, very quiet. Even though this has really aggressive, gigantic off-road tires, it's remarkably quiet on the inside. You wouldn't expect it to be this quiet, but it is it is very, very quiet. Then we have the turn signals here. So we have blind spot cameras. So when you put the turn signals on, you have these blind spot cameras that will pop up, and then they'll have a little red highlight there that'll flash when there's actually a vehicle in your blind spot. We have a heated and cooled seats. It's kind of warm today, 82 degrees, so the cooled seats come in very nice. Little fan turned on and circulating air through the perforated holes. Great on those hot days. Tracks dead straight down the road. Very, very easy vehicle to drive, even though it's kind of large and cumbersome looking. When you get behind the wheel, all the size melts away. The steering is absolutely great. It reacts really nicely to just the slightest steering input. But you know, it tracks straight down the road. You don't have to constantly make corrections to keep it in its lane. It just goes straight down. Partially thanks to this longer wheelbase that this thing has. Yeah, and obviously the interior is a little bit more muted. It's not as radical as the exterior styling. It's actually pretty easy to forget you're in this kind of radically styled trapezoidal like avant-garde, you know, pickup truck. All right, we got a nice straightaway here, so I'll test out the acceleration with 600 horsepower. So let's mash the accelerator and see how it accelerates. Here we go. Whoa. Yeah, this thing is absolute rocket ship with 600 horsepower. I can only imagine what the Cyber Beast would be like with 800 horsepower. But this thing has tons of power. It put a lot of sports cars to shame. And it tracks beautifully straight down the highway too. Pretty quiet too on the highway at 60 miles an hour. It's luxury car quiet. I mean, as crazy as it looks, I mean, it's on the inside, it's a pretty nice driving vehicle, pleasant place to spend your daily commute. A little noise from the steering wheel. We'll have to have Tesla check that out actually. It could be bothersome. I don't know exactly what's causing that, but that's my only gripe. But I will, you know, give it a slight pass because it's a brand new vehicle. When you have such a radically new design vehicle, you're going to go through some teething issues in the production process, and you're going to have little issues like that. But Tesla's pretty good about correcting it and fixing it, so I'm sure they probably have a remedy already in place for that. This is kind of a tight turn right here, so this will check out the four-wheel steering, how this operates. It's a little bit of a tough turn, but really easy in this one. Usually it's a little bit harder to swing that turn in larger vehicles, but this one with the four-wheel steering, no issue at all. The air suspension's really nice. This thing just floats right over bumps. It's really an amazing driving vehicle. It's very different. It feels very different than pretty much any other vehicle you've driven, but it also feels really nice. The steering is just out of sight. I love the steering. It's just really easy to make turns, effortless with that four-wheel steering. Like I said, your brain has to kind of recalibrate the way the steering operates. It's a little bit different than the conventional steering rack, but your brain adapts really fast, and then you're like, wait, this is great, I like it. Well, the fun's over way too soon. We want to try to keep this under 1,000 miles. That's 991. Probably one or two more test drives and it might be over 1,000 miles, but I kept mine down to a couple miles, but it's for the sake of marketing this video. Thanks for joining me in this little video and walk around the Cybertruck. Hopefully it was informative, regardless if you're specifically interested in this one or just information on the Cybertruck in general. Thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you soon and have a wonderful day.